Okay guys, we're going to do a rendering of this now. So at the moment it's this basic default material which is grey and it's boring. Okay? It doesn't look like a final Trinket box, so we're going to make it look a wee bit more realistic. So this is about taking it from this kind of appearance, making it look more realistic, getting it to a stage where you can maybe present it to the client or the manufacturer to say what the materials are, what they look like, what the colour combinations are. Okay, so lots of uses for it. So to do this one, on your right hand side you should have this menu bar. Okay, we want a little coloured ball here, and that's your appearances, scenes and decals. Okay, now what we want is the appearances one. We're not going to mess about with scenes and decals. Okay, now if I just expand this a little bit, you can see there's lots of stuff in here. In fact, I'll only go as far as there. So these are all our options for what we can apply to this material, okay, rather than just boring grey. The one we want to work with, so we're going to do the wood first of all, is in organic. So if you click on the wee arrow that's at the side of organic, it will open up. Okay. Now in here, if you just click on organic, you won't see a lot. Okay. You'll see these two options here. So diamond and orange juice. We want to hit the little symbol that's at the side of wood. Okay. If we click on wood, you'll get basic options. Okay. But within wood, there's all sorts of options. So there's ash, beech, birch, cherry. So I just click on them and you see them. And within each of them, there's a 2D appearance, there's polished, there's plain. Okay, there's lots of different ones. Now we're trying to replicate the wood that we've used. We used pine. Okay, let's have a look at pine. If you hover over them, you'll get a bigger view of what the end thing is going to look like. Okay. And if we've got a good finish on ours, it may be something like this. Okay. There's yellow pine as well, which is a slightly darker one. And there's unfinished. So you can see it's got a matte appearance. It doesn't have the shiny qualities of the ones before. There's varnished as well. Okay, so the other ones are really glossy. So it depends what you want from your Trinket box. Okay. Now to apply them, it's really, really easy. All you have to do is from here, all I'm doing is I'm clicking on it and I'm dragging it across and onto the object. Okay, so let's just have a wee play and see what it does. Now, really important, I've dragged it across. I've not let go of the mouse on, sorry, the button on the mouse yet. When I do, it's important you don't move the cursor. Okay, just keep it where it is because you've got a few options that appear. So I've applied that. Okay, and I've got it on body. Okay, you can apply it to other things. So if there's an individual feature that you did, so maybe a hole or something like that, you can apply it to that. If you wanted it just on a face, you can apply it to that. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it on body. Now it looks like nothing's happened there, okay, because sometimes it doesn't preview what the material is going to look like. That'll only come once we render it. Okay. Let me see if it'll apply. Yeah, they're the same. Okay, so the pine ones are all the same. Polished yellow pine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply that to these parts, and I'm going to go for a contrasting wood. Okay, so for the little pin, just so that stands out a little bit, I'll do the end grain. Okay, so polished oak end grain. I'm going to apply that. Okay, and again I'm applying that to the body. And that's a different material. Now these ones, if you wanted to see, it's giving you a preview of this one. So the pine one isn't giving you any previews. You've got all these options. You can choose whichever wood you want. Okay, let's do polished oak and see if it gives us a preview. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's go to polished oak on this one as well for consistency. Now, inside the hole, okay, we had a coloured plastic disc. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to colour that up. Okay, we've not made the disc and we've not stuck it in, just for simplicity's sake. I'm going to show you an approach that you can do if you wanted to try different colours here. So that was organic that I clicked on to get all the wood options. Okay, you've got solid colours as well. Okay, now there's quite a wide palette there. Okay, so I think I had something like think it was blue I used for mine. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that and drag that across. Now, remember what I said about not letting go, okay? Because I've got options here. So that's to apply it to the whole body. I don't want that, okay? That one's just on the inside of the hole, okay? And that would be just to the face. So I'm just going to do the whole, so the sides of the hole, the bottom of the hole with that colour, okay? And we'll just see how that looks. Now, I can't get the preview of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the rendering now. Okay, so that's us applied the materials. We don't need to worry about anything else. Before we do the rendering, there's one more thing I want you to do, and that is to go up here to the TV screen, click on that, and just make sure that you've got perspective added. And it just makes it a little bit more kind of realistic. Now, to render it up, what you need to do is you need to add in a sub-menu here. Okay, so it's really easy. SolidWorks add-ins, and then go along and click on Photo View 360. And the Photo View 360 will load up, and this allows you to do a render, and you can see it's added in a tab here called Render Tools. Click on Render Tools, and what I can do at this stage is I can do a wee preview. So I wasn't getting to see how this looks, yeah? So if I go to Preview Window, what it will do is it will open up this preview window, and it will show you kind of what your render is going to look like at the end of the day. Okay, so there's my material that's been added, and you can see it looks a lot more realistic, and that was with the polished oak. So you've got try your different options. If you don't like it, go back and change it. Now, the preview window is handy because you can leave that open, okay? And I can go back to organic. I can go back into wood. And it wasn't giving me a preview here, so I can go back to pine, and I can see what it's maybe going to look like. Let's see what polished pine looks like. Let's just apply that. Just make sure it's on the whole thing, and it will update in here. Okay, you can see the difference here. So polished pine. Let's go across onto our object, keeping it there. There's a polished pine, and that's more realistic for what I have as a final design. So I'm gonna go with that there. Now, that's just the preview. A couple of things about the preview. You can see it's not really looking realistic. It just seems to be hovering in space. There's no shadows being cast or anything like that. Okay, so I'm happy with the materials I've applied. I'm happy with the colours inside there. If I wanted to see more into that, whatever I do in this screen here, okay, so if I move that, it will update in there. Okay, now you could go with that. If you were wanting to maybe do a design and you wanted to crop that out without any shadows on, you can do that. That's absolutely no problem. We can just go to like a final render to do that. All we do is hit final render. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to just make sure that I've got all my different options on that I should have on. Okay, so I'll just expand this a little bit. All my appearances are in here. This is my display manager, and you can see there's all the different things I applied. Okay, so I've got polished oak, yeah, polished pine. So that one's there, but it's underneath the one that I've done. So you can right click and delete these, but it doesn't really matter. It's not taking up a lot of file space. If I go on to this third one, okay, so it's view, scene, lights, and cameras. Okay, I can see what I've got on here. So if I go to the environment that I've got on, so I've got the scene, which is 3-point faded. That means there's going to be 3 points of light, and the light's kind of faded away, and it's a mixture of two things. Okay, it's a mixture of this background and this environment that's in. Okay, I've got certain lights on, and that's my default camera just now. Okay, so checking those things and making sure I'm happy with them. I'll show you how to do a camera in a sec, but first of all, what I want to do is I want to just check my options. Click on this and just check. Yeah, for this one it'll be fine. You shouldn't need to change anything. Okay, so don't worry about your options. Don't click on that. You have nothing to change there really. What I do want to do is right click on this Okay, this 3-point faded. Now, I just want to make sure I've got floor shadow and floor reflection on. Okay, for some reason that's not adding. So let's edit the scene. Okay, so editing the scene, you can start to change things about the scene. You can change lighting, you can change the background image if you wanted to. Okay, we're just going to keep it white though. You can see I've got the floor shadows on and align floor with bottom view plane. Okay, that's fine. Now this one here, offset to geometry. I click on that one, you can see that my shadows have appeared now, and that just grounds the object and makes it a wee bit more kind of realistic. Okay, so that's what I want to do. I want to right click on scene, edit it, and make sure that you click on that button there, offset to geometry, and that's just saying that there's no offset there. Yeah, basically the floor is 0 millimeters away from the bottom of the object. SolidWorks works that out for you. Okay, so just go in there, make sure you've got floor. You can put. I'll show you what floor reflections look like. You can use that. It's quite a nice effect, just like it's on a reflective surface. You can see that. So if you want to use that, that's fine. If not, just click on floor shadows, and then just tick it. And then I'm happy with that. So I'm happy with kind of the look of things. I'm happy with the shadows. I probably don't need that open up anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a camera. Okay, so setting up a camera, really easy. Right click, add camera, and this is like you doing the job of photographer now. Okay, so you can change the view in here. This one is done just using the mouse. Okay, so if you're on this window here, you're just using the mouse, and I'm just using the middle mouse wheel and pressing it down, and then I can rotate things freely about if I want to. Over on this side, if I just zoom out a little bit, trundling out, you can see what your camera is actually doing. Okay, so at the moment, it's focused on my object. That's fine. That's what we want. I'm just using the middle mouse wheel just to bring that round. And you've got 3 arrows. Okay, the arrows, if I click on the blue one, I can zoom in and out. If I go on to the red arrow, I can spin round about. You can see what would happen with the camera there. And if I use the green arrow, I can move up and down. Okay, so this one gives you a lot of kind of fine tuning. Yeah, so if you're not quite happy with it and you've not got the control that you need from the mouse, then use this left-hand screen. Now, in here, you've got options. Okay, so you can choose what your camera is you're going to use. One thing I would do is, once you're happy with how you're looking at your thing, it might be tilted slightly. Down here, okay, that gives you the chance to roll the object. Okay, so we want that at 0 degrees. Okay, you can type in 0 and hit enter, or you can drag it until it's on that middle bar on the scale. So I'm happy with that. Custom angle. Okay, so this is where you can set what you want your camera to be. So if I just show you, here's a 24 wide angle. I'm zoomed out. I can zoom in on that. Here's a 35mm. There's a 50, which is your standard. Telephoto as well. Okay, so these are changing the kind of the look of the thing. Yeah, so they're changing whether it's an exaggerated perspective or there's minimal perspective on it. So using different lenses, okay, can give you exaggerated. Okay, so if I go to 35mm wide angle, just zoom in a little bit. Okay, I can get more kind of exaggeration. You can see that's a bigger angle on the side there. Okay, Now, at that stage, probably happy with that. Okay, I'm off to the side. So that's what to check is you can't really see the right hand edge of the screen here. You can pull this in a little bit, I suppose. And we'll just go in there again. So if I want to change that camera, I've got to go into it, I've got to right click, and I've got to edit the camera. Okay, you can see I was missing the right hand edge here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'll use this one. And I'll use a little red tracker. So that shows you, that's basically where the camera is looking. So if you're not quite fitting it all in, change that to what you want. Actually, now that I can see the whole thing, it looks a wee bit weird. So let's try standard. And we'll zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. So that's a job that the photographer would do. Happy with how it's lit, happy with everything that's in the shot, how it's composed, etc., etc. Now, at this stage, when you're happy with all that, all you need to do is go to final render. And what this is going to do is the computer's working hard here. It's trying to work out all the lighting, all the materials, and it's going to give you a preview of what that looks like in here. Now, this first bit here, that's the preview image. Okay, you don't need that. All you have to do is basically just click, and it's just a left click on the top here, and that'll get rid of that. This is the bit that we're interested in here. This is giving you an update on what's actually happening. Okay, so just to explain, it's doing what we call passes. Yeah, the computer's working out what each individual pixel looks like. Okay, and it's doing that as a series of passes. It's putting the basic information together first, and then it puts another pass over the top of it where it's getting finer and finer detail. Okay, and you can see it does a couple of passes, and then it'll start to build these blocks up where it's building up a picture of the individual squares that we need for the image. Now you can change resolution on this if you want a really, really detailed picture of this that had high resolution. You know, you're going to look at it in kind of real detail. You can up the detail on it, but we're just going to leave those settings as is. Okay, we're just going to go with the default settings. And there's a third pass. You can see it's doing a lot more detail now, and there will be a final pass. It'll start building these kind of blocks up to the side. The white ones, they're really quick because there's no information there. It'll start to lag a little bit when it gets near to this material because it's having to work out how light's affecting it, and it's working its way through the object bit by bit. Now, wood's not too bad. What it does lag for quite a while on is if you apply things like metal, okay, because metal is reflective, it's shiny, it's got a lot of kind of variables that the computer needs to work out. So it will take longer to do these wee individual squares than normal. Okay, but for our one here, it shouldn't be too long. Up the top, you can see there's an update. So there's the rendering progress. So we're at 30% just now. It's recommended probably about 4 minutes to get it done. It may be less. And all we're going to do is we're going to wait until this is done. And then when it's done, very important that you don't just come out of this. You've got to hit this save image button here. If you don't do that, you've lost your work. Okay. Now, some other projects that I've got loaded up here. It'll give you, basically if you do lots of different renders, it'll give you your history for things that you've done here. And you can see how quickly it goes on the white squares. It's not a lot to work out there. And then it pauses on the material. Now we want a good image of this because we're going to use this. We'll use this in some sort of presentation for a folio. This could become a front cover, for example. And if you want to use multiple images on your front cover, then do a render, save the image, go back in, maybe move the thing about, maybe close the lid and do a render of that. Okay, so you've got it in the open position and the closed position. Maybe you could do some views from the side, from the top. Okay, whatever you want for the images that you're going to put together for your front cover. But the process that I've shown you will be the same. You won't need to set up as many things. So it'll be quicker. And there we go. There's our final image, and it just sharpens up right at the end. Okay. Save image, and we'll do that to just to the desktop just now. I'll just call that render 1. Okay, and that's saved. You can come out of that. That's what your final image will kind of look like. You don't need that open. Just make sure that if you've done all this work, you spent your time rendering, make sure that you do save it at the end. Okay, just say save all if those dialog boxes come open. And that way, if you had to leave your render and come back to it, it would have saved what you've done so far. Okay.